You pay it off every month. Or at least, you think you do. You swipe for groceries, coffee, a quick online order. Nothing crazy, nothing irresponsible. Just life. And yet somehow, the balance never really goes away. It shrinks, then grows, then shrinks again. Like you're running on a treadmill that slowly speeds up. You feel busy, you feel productive, but you're not moving forward. Here's the part almost no one tells you clearly. The system isn't built for you to win quickly. It's built for you to stay just comfortable enough to keep going. And that's where the trap begins. Meet Daniel, 32 years old, marketing executive, makes $14,200 a month after tax. He's not reckless. He doesn't gamble. He doesn't buy luxury watches or take first-class flights. He just lives like most people do. $12 lunches, $60 dinners on weekends, a $900 phone upgrade every 2 years, flights home during holidays. Normal, reasonable, expected. But here's what his monthly reality looks like. Rent, $1,400. Food, $600. Transportation, $300. Subscriptions, $120. Miscellaneous, $400. And then the credit card payment, $350 minimum. That number doesn't scare him. It feels manageable. That's the design. What Daniel doesn't feel is the interest. Because interest doesn't show up like a bill. It shows up quietly, in the background, every single day. 99% a year sounds like a number, but let's translate it. If Daniel carries a $6,000 balance, he's paying about $13 a year in interest. That's $15 a month, just to stay where he is. Not to get ahead, not to build wealth, just to not drown. And here's the part that feels He's working hard, 40 hours a week, sometimes 50. He shows up, he performs, he gets his paycheck, but a portion of his work is already claimed before he even sees it. The $15 in interest, that's about 3 hours of his work every week. Gone. Every week, every month, every year. And he doesn't even notice it anymore. That's when it stops feeling like debt and starts becoming a lifestyle. Look around any cafe. People tap, swipe, pay. No friction, no pause, no emotional resistance. That's not accidental. Cash makes you feel the loss. Cards delay it. And delayed pain is easy to ignore. When you hand over $50 in cash, you feel it. Your brain registers loss immediately. But when you tap a card, your brain logs it as future problem. And future problems are easy to ignore until they aren't. Because time is where the trap tightens. Month 1, you carry a balance. Month 3, it grows slightly. Month 6, you adjust. You normalize it. Month 12, you don't even remember what zero balance felt like. Daniel splits a $120 dinner, $30 each. He taps his card, smiles. Not bad, but that $30, if not paid off immediately, turns into $37 over time. Then $42, then more. Not because he's irresponsible, but because the system compounds quietly. Interest that earns more interest. That's the engine. And it doesn't care how good your intentions are. Now meet Sarah, 28 years old, freelance designer. Income fluctuates between $2,500 and $3,500 a month. She got her first credit card at 22. Limit $1,000, then another, then a third. Now she has 4 cards. Total limit $12,000. She tells herself something important. I have room. That sentence sounds harmless, but it changes everything. Because a credit limit doesn't feel like a boundary. It feels like permission, and permission is dangerous. She doesn't max out her card. She's smarter than that. She keeps her balance around $5,000 total, spread across cards. Feels controlled, feels intentional. But here's the math. At an average 24% interest rate, that $5,000 costs her about $1,200 a year in interest. That's $100 a month. That's groceries. That's a utility bill. That's real money. But she doesn't feel it as a single hit. It's sliced, distributed, hidden. And that's why it works. Each card asks for just $60. Individually, harmless. Together, over $300 a month. And most of it doesn't even touch the principal. This is the moment people miss. You're not just paying debt. You're renting your past. Every dollar you don't fully pay off becomes a tiny subscription to your previous decisions. And subscriptions are easy to ignore. until you add them up. $90.99 here, $14.99 there. $17.99 for something you forgot. Credit card debt works the same way. Small, fragmented, persistent. Payday comes. Daniel sees $4,200 hit his account. For a moment, it feels good. Relief, control. But then the deductions begin. Rent goes out, bills go out, minimum payments go out, and suddenly, that $4,200, then $1,200, then barely enough. He's not broke, but he's not free either. And that's a very specific kind of pressure. Not panic, just constant weight. So he works harder. Maybe a promotion, maybe a raise. Maybe next year things improve. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If your system stays the same, more income doesn't fix the trap. It often deepens it. Because when income rises, lifestyle rises faster. Better apartment, nicer dinners, more I deserve this moments. And the card is always there, ready, waiting. This is not about discipline. It's about design. The system is frictionless. The consequences are delayed, and the math compounds quietly. That combination, it's powerful. Let's stretch Daniel's situation out. $6,000 balance, 99% interest, minimum payment, about 2% of balance. If he only pays the minimum, it will take him over 20 years to clear it. 20 years. And he'll pay over $9,000 in interest, more than the original debt. Let that sit for a second. He borrowed $6,000. He pays back $15,000 plus, not because he made one big mistake, but because of many small, invisible ones. That's how people end up working longer than they planned. Not because they lack ambition, not because they're lazy, but because part of their time was quietly sold off years ago. Time is the real currency here. Money is just how it's measured. Every dollar of high-interest debt is a future hour of your life already assigned, already spoken for, already gone. And the hardest part, you don't feel the moment you enter the trap. There's no alarm, no warning sign, no sudden crash, just a slow shift from control to maintenance, from progress to survival. Tomorrow looks like today. Today looks like yesterday. And the cycle continues. But something deeper is happening underneath all of this. Something most people never question. Not the interest rate, not the minimum payment, but the way we think about money itself. Because the trap isn't just in the numbers, it's in the mindset. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But that realization, it doesn't come immediately. It builds quietly until one day it clicks. And when it does, everything changes. Not just your debt, but your entire relationship with money. That's where we're going next. Daniel tries something different one night. No apps, no automation, just a pen and paper. He writes down every expense from the past 30 days. Every swipe, every tap, it's just $10. At first it feels tedious, then uncomfortable, then something shifts. Coffee, $4.50 18 times. Food delivery, $22 to $11 times. Rideshare, $14, 9 times. Random online purchases, $35. Nothing shocking individually, but together, over $1,200 in small spending. That's nearly 30% of his monthly income. Gone. Not invested, not saved, not even remembered. And this is where most people stop. They say, okay, I need to cut back. They try for a week, maybe 2. Then life happens, stress hits, convenience wins, and the pattern returns. Because they are solving the wrong problem. This isn't a spending problem, it's a system problem. Your behavior is not random. It's shaped by how money flows, by how payments are structured, by how easy it is to ignore consequences. Sarah thinks she's being responsible. She pays more than the minimum on one card, pays just the minimum on the others. She rotates, balances, manages. It feels strategic, but here's what's actually happening. Interest doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward effort. It only responds to math. And the math is simple. If your balance grows faster than your payments reduce it, you're not progressing. You're orbiting. You feel like you're moving, but you're stuck in the same loop, month after month. Let's break this down clearly. Sarah owes $5,000 across her cards. Average interest rate, 24%. That means her debt grows by about $100 per month, even if she doesn't spend another $100 every month. Now look at her payments. She pays $300 total across all cards, Sounds good, right? But here's the breakdown. $100 goes to interest. Only $200 reduces the actual balance. So after 1 month, her $5,000 becomes $4,800. That feels like progress. But then life happens again. She orders food, $25. Buys something online, $40. Takes a ride home instead of the bus, $18. That's $83. Almost half of her progress erased in a week. This is the cycle. Not dramatic, not catastrophic, just persistent. You're walking, then jogging, then running. But the machine keeps speeding up, and eventually, you're just trying not to fall. One day, Daniel gets an email. Congratulations, your credit limit has been increased to $10,000. He smiles, feels recognized, trusted, safer. That's the illusion. A higher limit doesn't reduce risk. It expands it. It gives your future self more room to make mistakes. And future you is usually more tired, more stressed, more likely to say yes. Because willpower is not constant. It fades, especially at night, especially under pressure. And credit cards are always available, always ready. Here's something most people never calculate: the true cost of just carrying a balance. Let's go back to Daniel. $6,000 balance, 99% interest. He decides to be responsible. He pays $500 a month, not the minimum, way better than average. So how long does it take to pay off? About 14 months. Total interest paid, around $1,000. That's manageable. But here's the catch. He doesn't stop spending. Every month he adds about $300 in new charges. Now the equation changes completely. He's paying $500, but adding $300, net progress, $200, and interest still applies. Now it takes over 3 years to pay off, and interest paid over 2 days, $500, more than double. Same person, same intention, different system. This is where frustration builds. I'm doing everything right. Why am I still stuck? But the truth is, he's not doing everything wrong. He's just missing one key idea. And this is where things start to shift. Effort doesn't beat math. You can try harder, work longer, be more disciplined. But if the system is against you, effort leaks out quietly, relentlessly. What matters more than how hard you try is how your money flows, where it goes first, what gets priority, what gets delayed, because money is directional, and direction determines outcome. When Daniel looks at his list again, he notices something new, not just how much he spends, but when. Most of his spending happens after 7 p.m., after work, when he's tired, when decisions are weaker. That's not random, that's predictable. And predictable problems can be redesigned, not resisted. Sarah makes a bold move. She closes one of her cards, not because she's bad with money, but because she understands something now. More options means more chances to slip. Less friction means less control. So she adds friction back on purpose. She keeps one card for emergencies. Everything else, debit, cash. Now every purchase feels different. Slight pause, slight awareness. That's enough. Daniel does something simpler. He sets his credit card payment to $700 a month. Automatic, higher than before. Slightly uncomfortable, but consistent. And consistency changes the trajectory. Because now, even if he slips, even if he spends $200, he's still moving forward. Not perfectly, but steadily. And steady beats perfect every time. He doesn't cut everything. He just changes pattern. Coffee at home, fewer late-night orders, more awareness, no extreme rules, just small shift. And this is where most people expect a simple answer. Just spend less, just pay more. But that's not the real shift. The real shift is deeper. It's about how you define progress. Because right now, most people define progress as, I didn't get worse. But that's not progress. That's maintenance. And maintenance keeps you in the loop. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If your debt isn't shrinking fast enough, it's growing, not always in balance, but in time, because every extra month you carry it is another month of interest, another month of delayed freedom, another month of your future already spent. And this is where the first real realization hits, not emotionally, but mathematically, not loudly, but clearly. You don't have a debt problem. You have a time problem. And once you see that, everything starts to look different. Part 1. Time is the real cost. Time is the part nobody respects until it's gone. Daniel used to think his problem was $6,000. That number felt real, concrete, but now he sees something else. It's not $6,000. It's 3 years. It's 5 years. It's however long that balance stays alive. Because debt doesn't just take your money. It takes your time. And time is not replaceable. Part 2. Translating debt into life. Let's translate his debt into something more honest. Daniel earns $4,200 a month after taxes, after deductions. That's about $26 an hour. So his $6,000 balance, that's roughly 230 hours of work. Almost 6 full work weeks gone. But remember, interest exists. Add another $1,000 in interest over time. Now it's 70 hours. Nearly 7 weeks of his life working for something he already consumed. Part 3. The shift, that's the shift. And here it is. Clear and unavoidable. You're not paying with money. You're paying with your life hours. Every swipe is a small trade. Now for later. Ease for effort. Comfort for time. And most people never calculate that exchange. Part 4. Debt equals time. This is where everything changes. Debt is not just a financial burden. It's a claim on your future time. Already signed. Already agreed to. In high-interest debt, it's expensive time. Very expensive time. Part 5. Same income. Different life. 2 people earn the same $4,200 a month. Same job. Same hours. Same effort. But one has no debt. The other carries $6,000 at 23%. After all expenses, the first person keeps a $1,000. The second keeps maybe $600. Same life, different outcomes. Why? Because one person's time is fully theirs. The other is partially owned. Part 6. The invisible chain. Not dramatically, not obviously, but consistently. And consistency is what shapes your life. Part 7. A new way of thinking. Daniel starts noticing something else. His decisions feel different now, not restrictive. Not forced, just clearer. When he looks at a $50 purchase, he doesn't think, can I afford this? He thinks in a way. How many hours is this? 2 hours. Is it worth 2 hours of my life? Sometimes the answer is yes. But now, it's a conscious yes, not automatic. Part 8. Changing the question. Sarah has her own version of this shift. She used to think in terms of balances. How much do I owe? Now she thinks in speed. How fast is this shrinking? That question changes behavior instantly because it forces direction. Part 9. Progress and momentum. Flat means stuck. Downward means progress. And progress is addictive in the best way. Her $5,000 debt becomes $4,600, then $4,110, then $3,500. Not overnight, but consistently. And consistency builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. And confidence keeps you going. Part 10. Tracking creates motivation. She starts tracking her debt manually. Not because she has to, but because she wants to see the movement, the direction, the proof. Because numbers alone don't motivate. Movement does. Part 11. The pause. Daniel catches himself one night. He's about to order something online. $70. Old habit, but he pauses just for a second, and that second is everything. He closes the app, not because he should, but because now he sees the trade. $70, nearly 3 hours of his life. Not worth it. Not today. Part 12. Awareness changes behavior. That's what awareness does. It doesn't remove desire. It adds perspective, and perspective changes behavior without. Part 13. A simpler life. His life doesn't become boring. It becomes intentional. Less noise, less impulse, more control, and slowly the numbers follow. Part 14. The bigger mistake. Now here's where most people make a mistake. They think the goal is to eliminate debt. That's part of it, but it's not the full picture. Part 15. The hidden risk. Because you can be debt-free and still be stuck. You pay off your entire credit card balance. 0. Feels amazing. Relief. But then your savings, Dollars. Your investments? $0. Emergency fund? Nothing. One unexpected expense, and you're back in the cycle. Part 16. Protection matters. This is why people relapse, not because they are careless, but because they're and protection is part of the system too. Part 17. Building a buffer. So Daniel adds something new, not just payments, but buffers. He sets aside $200 a month. Small, but consistent. Now he's doing two things at once: reducing debt, building safety. Slowly, but steadily. Part 18. Real stability. That's when real stability begins. Not when debt disappears, but when your system can absorb shocks, because life will test it, always. Part 19. Breaking the cycle. Sarah gets hit with a $600 expense. Old Sarah would panic, use credit, add to balance. New Sarah, she uses her savings, no new debt, no backward step. That's progress. Real progress. Part 20. Quiet power. It's not flashy, but it's powerful, because she didn't just avoid a problem, she broke a pattern. Part 21. Internal change. Daniel feels it too. Not in his bank account first, but in his mindset. Less stress, less background noise, more clarity. Because now, his money has direction. And direction creates momentum. Part 22. The deeper truth. But there's still one layer deeper than this. One truth that most people never reach. Even after paying off debt. Even after building savings. Because the biggest trap is not the credit card itself. It's what it teaches you to believe about money. And that belief can keep you stuck even when the numbers look better. That's where we go next. Part 1. The quiet shift. There's a moment that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No celebration. No big milestone. No zero balance screenshot. Just a quiet shift. Daniel looks at his numbers. And for the first time, he's not reacting. He's deciding. That's new. Part 2. From reaction to design. Because before, money felt like something that happened to him. Bills came. Payments were due. Balances existed. He responded. Now, he's designing. That difference is everything. Part 3. Floating versus steering. Floating feels normal. You move with the current, but you don't choose direction. Steering is slower at first. More effort, more awareness. But now, you decide where you go. Part 4. Redesigning the system. He redraws his system from scratch. Not based on habits. Not based on what everyone does. But based on one simple question. What should my money do first? Not what's urgent. Not what's loud. What actually matters. Part 5. The 3 buckets. He creates 3 buckets. Future, stability, past. Future, investing, long-term growth. Stability, savings, emergency fund, past, debt. Part 6. The common mistake. Most people reverse this. They give everything to the past first. Pay debt. React to bills. Then, if anything is left, maybe save. But usually, nothing is left. Part 7. Flipping the order. So Daniel flips it, not drastically, just intentionally. 10 to future, 5% to stability, everything else to expenses and debt. It feels uncomfortable, like he's not attacking debt hard enough. Part 8. Balance progress. But something interesting happened. His life becomes balanced. Not perfect, but sustainable. Because now, he's not just escaping the past. He's building the future at the same time. Part 9. Sarah's progress. Sarah reaches a similar point. Her debt is down to $2,000 now. From 5, that's real progress. But what surprises her is how she feels. Lighter, yes, but also more in control of her decisions. Part 10. The second shift, because now she understands something deeper. And this is the second shift, the one most people never articulate. But once you see it, you can't go back. Part 11. Dependent. The real trap was never the credit card. It was dependence on it. Dependence for comfort, for convenience, for emotional relief. Part 12. Hidden patterns. I'm tired. I'll fix it later. It's just this once. Those moments feel small, but they create patterns, and patterns create systems. Part 13. The loop. If your system depends on borrowing, you will always need borrowing. No matter your income, no matter your discipline, because dependence doesn't disappear with more money, it scales. Part 14. Same pattern, different scale. Someone making $2,000 a month uses credit to survive. Someone making $10,000 a month uses credit to sustain lifestyle. Different scale, same pattern. Part 15. The Upgrade Trap. Daniel notices this clearly one day. He's about to upgrade his phone. New model, $200. Monthly installment plan available, only $50 a month. That phrase used to work on him, but now he translates it instantly. $1,200, about 45 hours of his life. And more importantly, a new dependency, another fixed cost, another commitment. He closes the page, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Part 16. True freedom. Freedom isn't about saying no to everything. It's about not needing to say yes. Part 17. Automation. Sarah builds something quietly powerful. Automation. Every month, $300 to debt, $200 to savings, $15 to long-term investing. No decisions, no emotions, just flow. Part 18. Systems over willpower. Because she understands something now. The less you rely on willpower, the more consistent your results become. Willpower fluctuates. Systems don't. Part 19. 6 months later. 6 months pass. Daniel's balance drops from $6,000 to $2,800. Not perfect, but real. And his savings? $1,200. First time in years that matters more than it looks. Part 20. What freedom feels like. Because now he has options. And options are what freedom actually feels like. Not luxury. Not excess. Just choice. Part 21. Real life wins. He can handle an emergency. He can say no to overtime if needed. He can breathe. That's not small. That's everything. Part 22. The real goal. And here's the part people misunderstand about money. It's not about becoming rich. It's about removing pressure, little by little, until your life feels like yours again. Part 23. Quiet victories. Cooking at home without rushing. Walking without checking your balance. Sleeping without thinking about bills. These are quiet victories, but they're real. Part 24. Still in progress. He's not done yet. There's still debt left, still work to do. But now, it's different because he's no longer trapped. He's moving forward. Part 25. Final insight. And if you step back, this entire journey wasn't about numbers. It was about awareness, direction, and system. Part 26. What matters most? If you remember nothing else, remember this. You don't escape the credit card trap by trying harder. You escape it by thinking differently and building a system that works even when you're tired, even when life gets messy, even when you're not perfect. Part 27. Closing. Because in the end, money is not just numbers. It's time. It's energy. It's pieces of your life. And the goal is simple. Keep more of it for yourself, not by force, but by design.